Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well today. Today I want to talk to you about Masterpiece Transformers. Getting back to these types of topics, and today I want to discuss, does it bring you joy? Now this conversation can be had for Legends figures, Marvel Legends, Hasbro Mainline, G.I. Joe Classified, all those, but today is specifically tailored for Masterpiece Transformers because that's what brings me a lot of joy in collecting. So we'll get into talking about this and we'll discuss it. And as always, with all of my discussions, I hit it from multiple angles. So I'll talk about what gives the joy, but at the end, what sucks the joy out. Coming up. All right, so getting started with this, the first thing that brings me joy, makes me happy about collecting is the fact that this stuff literally looks like it walked off the screen, walked out of the cartoon, getting what I wished we would have gotten back in the day. But we'll get into that. Some of the figures that we've had, some of the figures that are coming are just so impressive. The engineering, the technology, the paint has come so far, even way further than in 2003 when I started collecting these. And with all of that, it's impressive. To look back over the span, the body of work that has been done with Masterpiece is so impressive. It's almost kind of like if you can dream it, you can drive it, or you can have it on your shelf, which we do. And we will either have it on our shelf now or it is coming. So this getting to have what you wanted back in the day, or what your mind's eye would have liked to see in your collection back in the day, but to get it now, so impressive. Masterpiece collecting has become very impressive because the figures look so good. And the other thing is that maybe you're not getting exactly cartoon accurate. Maybe it's not 100% cartoon accurate, but you're getting something that really looks very good. And it's impressive. And it's close to, but other people kind of want real world, which is another point we want to get into. But for me personally, I wanted to nail the cartoon. And with that, we're getting that right now. I'm sure I'm going to be accused of being a broken record, but I really do like the fact that the stuff we're getting now is so much better than G1. G1 was limited by technology and budgets. Now, as kids, we could accept the fact that this is all that could be done technology-wise. Drawing a cartoon, you can make it do whatever, but in reality, you can only go this far. But no, reality could go even further. The other thing was, of course, the budget. As kids, we probably didn't really consider budgeting that if you were to make a figure with 187 part count, that it's going to, and then the labor that goes into that, all that it's going to cost 10 times more. Oh, wait. In the current market, these two figures, the KO of the MP36 and the KO of Megatron, cost about the same. I think two examples is enough, but we were limited by technology. This stuff was also limited by budget because they wanted to bring something over that was already ready to go out of the door, and it was. And we accepted that. As kids, we knew this could have been better, could have matched the animation better. But nowadays, we don't have to settle. You do not have to settle. You can have near perfection, but I will say this. One thing about this, I'm happy with what we're getting, but nothing is actually perfect. The next thing I want to talk about is scale, and I've talked about this in the past, but I've got a different angle. As I like to say, I have many different angles that I come at these topics. But with this, for me personally, 3.75 inch scale dominated the 80s and is my most preferred scale for action figures. See, Transformers are not just action figures. There's something different. They're giant mech machines. For a 3.75 inch figure compared to a Masterpiece, it makes sense in my head. No, it's not scale. No, it's not realistic. No, it's not right. But it's closer to making sense in my head. But here's the new angle to it before I get into that. Shout out to Sean at Dallas Finished Toys. Great job on upping the game on your YouTube channel. They're having a lot of fun over there. Dallas Finished Toys. Go check it out on YouTube. When you look at mainline, Hasbro mainline, you might have a couple of Optimus Primes in the mainline that are the same height or maybe even a little taller than what you get with the classified Duke or something along those lines. But in my mind's eye, the red figure is about the same size, maybe a little shorter than a Duke figure, which doesn't make any sense to me, doesn't really work for me in the world. And that's where you could kind of argue other people that collect just Legends, just like Transformers Legend scale, or just Hasbro mainline scale and nothing else, it works fine for them. But this video is about what brings me joy. What brings me joy is things scaling properly to make sense in my head. So next thing I want to talk about is quality. I just reviewed this guy. I think he's a pretty solid figure overall, and even with the minor issues that I have with the hip flaps, just a lot of work to get back in place. And some people also talk about the paint and or whatever, the clear coat on the chest being blotchy. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but for the most part, this figure did not break. It handled a lot and held up really well. So do all of the other figures from the Magic Square. And really, it's been a long time since I've actually broken a figure. And I'm very open about it. When I break a figure, I make a big deal about it. And of course, get the part replacements and stuff. I think, wow, I'm trying to think back. A Dune Rider. I think I broke Dune Rider, and I had to fix Dune Rider. Fans Toys. But that's really it. That's the last one I can remember. But Masterpiece has some very high quality figures, and the figures are made very well. And even with this, I've never broken a Megatron, but here's a secret. I've never transformed any of my MP36s, and I don't ever plan to going forward, unless I have to for some weird reason, and you're going to get into that. Best transition in history, well, for my channel. I've got to say that when it comes to what brings me joy in collecting and Masterpiece collecting, Masterpiece Transformers, transforming them, the act of transporting, converting is not fun. I do not enjoy it at all, the process. But when I'm done, I have that sense of satisfaction because you get to enjoy both modes. So many people would have gone from one mode or to the other one, or just not gone to that mode and not enjoyed it. And I gotta tell you, if it wasn't for making the reviews, I would not do it. But I appreciate it so much more because I do it. And generally when you're gonna break a figure, it's during transformation. They are very complicated transformations because you want perfection in both modes. And to get perfection in both modes, it requires a lot of work. A lot of flipping and flapping and flopping, but once you get there, it is worth it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's worth it because in Masterpiece, they work to make both modes perfect. In G1, they gave the alt mode, the car, the plane, the jet, whatever else it was, got the better mode. But the robot mode suffered. But to get an almost perfect robot mode and an almost perfect alt mode, as close to perfect as you can get right now, with the limits of our current technology, with all of that, it's still one of those things that is impressive. It's to transform it, it's great. A lot of people will find their joy in transforming it, but I do not like the process at all. Probably should have put this at the end of the video. But I do say there's a lot of figures I've left in alt mode for a long time, mostly because I didn't want to transform back, but also because I just really enjoy the alt mode, and in many cases, enjoy the alt mode better than the bot mode. And consider buying a second. And consider buying a second of that exact figure. Very few Masterpiece figures do I buy second figures of. And when I talk about what I've done with collecting the vintage, I just, this past Wednesday, made one of 3 videos that I'm going to be showing the vintage collection. Mostly the vintage collection. You'll see all the collection, everything. But with that, I have multiples, a lot of the vintage stuff. Just action figures standing there. But very few multiples of the exact same Masterpiece. For a lot of reasons. But with that, I am convinced sometimes to buy a second. The next thing that brings me joy, and maybe it's just specifically me and nobody else feels the same way, but it's the options and the variety. And I've already mentioned the fact that you can get stuff that's like real world versus toon. You can get the real world of things. But to get the oddball, off-the-wall kind of things like Autobot Spike or any of these other ones, I mean, that's one of those things that you just don't see it everywhere. You don't see every company or everyone making these oddball figures and characters. I mean, yeah, you do see some of it. New Age is probably in the Legends scale going to do it. Does Hasbro do it all and all the different color variations, all this stuff? The opportunity for another company or even the designers of Fantasy Toys to go off on their own and make their own colorations of the same mold that they created. I mean, there's so much complexity to this because there are so many companies involved, which is coming up too as another topic. But depth and variety is extremely impressive, and it's a whole lot of fun. And then also getting to have all of these figures and all these characters, it's one of those things that not every collector, not every collectible, not every franchise or toy line will get this opportunity that we get as Masterpiece Transformers collectors. And you know, some of the figures, when you're a mainline Hasbro collector, this Misfire figure, you've got the one that they made, and it's going for $170. Masterpiece collectors can buy it for $100, and it's going to be better. It's going to be better than what was made already in the past. But with all of that, this is what brings me joy. The joy is the having the fun and the opportunity to get some of these rare characters that maybe not everybody's going to want, but I might. The biggest thing that's brought me joy, and it took me 3 or 4 years to embrace it. Yeah, in 2014, I wasn't buying into the frenzy of third party. Third party exploded in the year 2014. I mean, it's always been around, but they weren't really touching on the Masterpiece. 2014 was the magical year when Masterpiece started taking over third party companies. Third party companies started putting them out. And to get that option from a third-party company that's going further than the 1 or 2 figures each year Takara made, that has definitely changed the game. To the point I really kind of believe Takara is taking a step back or away from Masterpiece and trying to go in a different direction. Now that third-party is well established, they're not going anywhere, and they're going to continue delivering what we want, even if Takara chooses not to deliver what we want. We have third party. But if, say, in the DC license, let's say you have a collection of stuff from Mattel for your DC stuff, right? And then McFarlane takes it over and changes the scale to 7-inch. I'm glad the scale came down to 9-inch now. I was opposed to it the first 10 years, but now I'm kind of happy for space purposes. But with this, a lot of the DC collectors were mad. The scale changed, and now the scale's going to change again. Alright, now we're going to have to get into the dark side. What sucks the joy out of collecting? And collecting Masterpiece, it sucks the joy out of it when you're having to pay high prices. See, the high prices of Masterpiece versus Legends, even though Legends per ounce is much higher of a price, or let's say Hasbro, let's just go with Hasbro. The price is higher. There's just no way around it. There's no arguing the point. For the most part, except for the example I showed with Misfire, the price is much higher. And this dead end, this bandit, is going to probably cost $400 or around $300 at Show Z store, if you know what I mean. TH in the Support Your Viewer on the main page. Some of these figures do cost $300 and $400. Some of these figures are very expensive, and that is a drawback. But I will say, even countering this negative drawback of price, number one, Show Z store. Best price you can get. Number two, if you've been collecting all along, like I have, you don't have to buy everything that comes out. In fact, a lot of stuff that comes out, and we're getting into that next point, but you don't have to buy everything that comes out. You can just be happy with what you have. And with that, that's a good point for price. Like if, hey, I don't want to spend that much, I'll wait for a sale, or I'll do without. But those are always options for price. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. Masterpiece is the most expensive of the Transformers, unless you get into Robo-Sin or the 3-0 big stuff or the big expensive Yellow Park stuff. The next negative that kind of sucks the fun out of collecting is when you miss an old release. You missed out on one, you skipped on it, and you rolled the dice. This was part of my problem in the early days. Now I make sure not to miss those, but I missed a lot of these in the early days. And they command hefty prices on the secondary market because of the fact that once it sells out through the normal means in retail, then all you have are collectors that either A, it's their only one, so if they give it up, they want to be compensated for that. Or B, somebody that bought it, held on to it, took good care of it for 3 or 4, 5, 7 years, and is like, okay, I'm willing to sell this for the current market value, the only one in the world for sale. I mean, that stuff does happen. But the reverse of that, this stuff always backfires. Well, it doesn't always. Sometimes it backfires on you. I want to point this one here out. Tesla 1.0. Now, I had Transformer Intuition, and I sold it off. I have Transformer Intuition. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel what's going to happen. And then it happens. And I made the video about this. I sold my Tesla off. I made the video. And the next day, there was a TFCon that announced Tesla 2.0. On top of that, Jansen. And so with that, I kind of dumped this guy because I knew a better one was coming. My Transformers Intuition. But a lot of times people will pay $500 for something like this and get burned. And so that's a negative in a way, because when you miss out on something and then you pay the ridiculous money to get it and then something better comes along, I can go get a brand new one of these, or a relatively brand new one of these, for $80 right now. So next up is breakage. When you transform your Transformers, you can break them. They break a little easier. I think Masterpiece breaks easier than Legends. When you think you broke a Legend, it's just a ball joint that popped out, or the way it popped out, you can pop it back in. I have never broke a Legends that can't get repaired. Every Legends that popped out, popped back in. Hasbro mainline, similar. There are some times where they use the clear plastic, and there's no going back once you broke those. And there's a couple of other issues with the mainline, but for the most part, mainline is about the same. But when it's Masterpiece, rigid, strong plastic, and it breaks, you're going to have to get a replacement part. Good thing that most companies do, X-Transbots, Fans Toys, them do replacement parts. Takara doesn't, though. I've never heard of anyone getting a Takara replacement part. Lastly, this is actually a problem. It does kind of suck. You have your collection all set up, you're happy, you're like, okay, I've got a list of 12 figures I want to buy, and I'm done. And then you start seeing replacements pop up that are better than what you have. You didn't budget for a new Trax figure. You didn't budget for any of these new figures. And now it's like, well, now I kind of feel like I need to get this figure. I want this figure. And if you're someone like me, I knew a better Trax was coming. I knew a better Sideswipe was coming. I knew better versions were coming. I didn't know that Fans Toys didn't like their own Galvatron. Now, this is the kind of stuff that sucks the joy out of collecting. And I was stoked to get the Fans Toys one, but I will tell you, I got the third or fourth release because I didn't think it was good enough to replace the DX9 one. And it took me a while to warm up to it, and I was like, you know what? For what I paid for the Fans Toys, I sold my DX9 one, and I broke even. And I felt good about that. Now here we are with this 2.0. I guarantee you, whatever you pay for the 2.0 Galvatron Fans Toys, you will not be able to sell your 1.0 Galvatron Fans Toys for the same price. You'll still get some value out of it. Somebody's going to give you the money for it. Because it's not a bad figure. But it's like, you're not going to get $250 out of it once this thing's come along. And those are the frustrating points for me. And yes, I enjoyed it on my shelf for 5 years. Okay, great. Yeah, I had it 5 years. But I do like to know there's some level of value to the tens of thousands of dollars I poured into my collection. And although I'm really happy with this guy, like I really don't care if we get another wheelie, I really do not care. I'm curious why we're replacing a good Galvatron with a slightly better Galvatron, and we're just going to let X-Transbots reign supreme as the best wheelie that's ever been made in existence on Earth under any circumstances. And most people say it's not very good. So I'm checking to see if there's an angle I missed on this topic. So I'm going to ask you, what do you guys think about this topic? Does collecting Masterpiece Transformers bring you joy? You can even chime in and say, nope, Legends is what brings me joy. Hasbro's what brings me joy. And I'm hearing this actually a lot. Not collecting Masterpiece is bringing people joy, but it still brings me a ton of joy. I have a lot of fun with it, and it's probably the most exciting part of collecting in 2025. And I've got a lot of plans for 2026. It's going to be the most exciting part of 2026 also. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Happy Friday, everybody. Everybody enjoy a great weekend. Lots of content coming. Happy to hang around.